Welcome to USD 435 Update. Today is Wednesday and we have rain coming down like cats and dogs right now, but it's beautiful. We need it. The ground is absorbing it. So we're sitting in my office and I'm here with Mr. Cooper, Assistant Superintendent, and we're going to talk to you about a couple of different things, and then I'm going to bring Mr. Tom Schwartz in, and he's going to talk to us about an organization in our community called Abilene Cares. So that's kind of a rundown of our program today. The first thing I wanted to visit with you about was the Gannon 5 decision, and Mr. Cooper and I are just going to kind of go back and forth and talk to you about what that decision is to our best of our understanding at this point, and how that might impact our district.
Big news this week.
It's big news, yeah. I think it came out on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So. Senate Bill 19 is the school finance bill that we are acting under at this point, and it was passed in June of last year. It's very similar to how school finance was previous to the block grant, in that it's a per student count amount, as well as some other FTE amounts along with that. But the Supreme Court ruled that it does not meet the adequacy measure or the equitable issue that they were looking at. Those are the two main areas that they look at for the school funding. And this is, again, this court decision has been ongoing for several years.
And the legislature then, the last 2 years, put in the block grant where schools just got a fixed amount of money for the previous 2 years, and then their solution was to fix their formula during those 2 years, and they came out with a formula very similar to the one that they had previous to that.
Right. So that's what we're acting on this year. Is our budget is depending on, or is under Senate Bill 19. The Supreme Court decision said that the legislature has until June of 2018 to address this issue. And the new bill, according to Kansas Association of School Boards, would need to be signed by April 18th in order for them to have what they need by June 30th. So we'll all be wondering what's happening about April 18th in school finance, and sitting on pins and needles like we have been the last few years.
And that will be a faster timeline than the legislature has acted in the past. It's typically been very late in the session or an extended session before we've got school finance. So it would be nice to know what kind of funding we would have next year as we before we hire people and staffing concerns and decisions are made.
Mm-hmm.
But we're back again to maybe
the same
wondering.
Thing, yeah. Now, if they happen to decide early, the courts did say that they would move up the timeline. So we're hoping for a Valentine's Day decision, and that the legislature has everything squared away by Valentine's Day, but I don't know if that's going to happen.
Well, I think one of the challenges, I think we have many legislators who feel they have fixed the equity issue with the bill that they passed last year during session. So now that the court has said that they have not addressed that adequately, it will be interesting to see what happens during the legislative session.
Well, the actual adequacy portion of the bill, the court basically said that the legislature needed to show that the structure and implementation that they put together in Senate Bill 19 was reasonably calculated to meet the needs of the students to achieve the Rose standards. So it wasn't necessarily that it's not adequate, it's that the information or the work that they used to come up with that number was not shown, so they didn't know how the legislature came up with that number. So I know we were at an event last night, and the legislator asked, well, how do we do that? You know, and so I know there's already talk out there. So that's the task then, is to do that. There was also some concern by the court on the reliance of using our local option budget to fund schools. That was designed back in the 90s to be kind of a surplus. That was our local effort to make our school system provide the needs to our local students for our local community. So if we felt like we needed welders in our community, we might use those monies to help build a welding program. So that was, the local option budget was basically for variance across the state on the local needs. And it's become a lifeline. We've used that as a part of our general fund in order to fund schools. So that's one of their concerns. Another concern is about the 10% floor on at-risk. We have school districts in the state who have a very low free and reduced rate, but they still have at-risk students. So they're concerned about the balance on that and if that's adequate or not. There's concerns about the fact that we've already been paying for all-day kindergarten in 91% of our schools, and the state already has that, so 9% of our schools would be putting that in, and is that equitable across the state? So those are some of the adequacy concerns, and then they talked about the equity. Talk to us a little bit about what you have heard on the equity part.
Well, the whole equity picture is the court's looking at, does a student, no matter what their zip code is in the state of Kansas, receive an approximate equal education to a student living in a different zip code? In other words, do districts with low economics, not a lot of tax base, can they reasonably generate the same kind of education with the same mill levy as a richer district, say in a Kansas City area or suburb? And there were a few issues that the court ruled on a couple years ago that said weren't equitable, and the legislature had some remedies for those, but they still, even with the new bill, found 4 things that they didn't feel like were equitable. And one of the things was having to do with how capital outlay expenditures can be used, and the legislators actually freed up how those dollars could be used for utilities, some other services, but because of the way the state aid works for capital outlay, the court found that that's really not equitable, that some districts might have to use their whole capital outlay levy just to pay for utilities because of their assessed valuation in their district, and other districts it wouldn't even make a blip on their capital outlay. So that was one of the issues. Another thing that the court looked at was Dr. Guy mentioned the local option budget, and those are dollars that we can choose to, our community can choose to put towards our district, and there's also state aid on those. And the legislators, in wanting to have a predictable budget at the state level, said, well, if a local district does raise their local option budget this year, they won't receive any state aid until the following year. And again, the court said, no, that provides disparity. I'll look at the notes here.
Talked a little bit about the 10% floor on the at-risk students already, and then the all-day kindergarten. So,
right. So those are really the equitable issues, and as a whole, that's been looked at a lot by the court and the legislators, and it just comes down to, regardless of where you live in the state of Kansas, can you get reasonably comparable education to anywhere else in the state with approximately the same type of mill levy at the local level? Mm-hmm. And the court said they still have some issues to clean up there.
So that's kind of a brief overview of the adequacy and the equitable issues that the Supreme Court decision outlined. It is like a 90-page document, so that's a very brief overview. There is language in there that the court has used that really supports that they're ready to be done with this case and that they would not tolerate any further extensions. So that's, you know, come June 30th of next school year, that's going to weigh heavy on all of our shoulders if things aren't decided and the courts have approved it.
Once again, as in the past, the court said it's not adequate, but they didn't give a number or a percentage increase that would meet their adequacy demands. So they're putting it back in the hands of the legislators and saying, this is not it. You haven't demonstrated to us that the increases you put into education are adequate, but they haven't given a remedy. They just gave a timeline for the legislators to come up with a remedy.
So they are to come up with that. So how does that impact us locally? Well, I can tell you that over the last 5 years, since I've been helping with building budgets, we have been tapping into our reserves in order to maintain the programs that we have. So this year, with the new Senate Bill 19, we were able to build a budget that's pretty flatlined. We're able to support the programs we have and the staff we have with the money that's coming in. So that was good news to us. Now that doesn't that doesn't change any of our needs, or it doesn't help us provide additional resources for the needs that are identified in our community. But it does allow us to build a budget that we are not going in the red on. So, so as far as how this lawsuit will, I guess time will tell. We'll just have to kind of wait and see how the legislative session is, and see how it will impact our district. I know the legislators have a lot of hard work to do. They've already done a lot of hard work. We work closely with them to try and provide them with information so that they can make the best decisions they can for our district as well. So we will continue to do that. So that kind of sums up the Supreme Court decision, and we're going to talk a little bit in the next segment with Mr. Tom Schwartz on the Abilene Cares initiative.
At Eagle Communications, we deliver what matters to your business. Our services are fast, reliable, secure, and competitively priced, giving you more value for your hard-earned business dollar. With Eagle Communications, you're not just another number, you're part of our business family. And we deliver peace of mind with local technicians who provide dedicated system monitoring and support. Connect to something better. Call Eagle Communications, and let's talk about what matters to your business.
All right, well, we are back to USD 435 update, and I have with me Mr. Tom Schwartz. He is a familiar face in our district, however, he is retired now. And I know you just participated in a really awesome trip, didn't you?
I did, yes, to the northeast part of the United States. I've never been able to do that in the fall before.
So did you see any of the colors of the trees changing?
They are starting to
turn.
They are starting to turn, so it was something I didn't realize New Hampshire was beautiful. So
very good. Well, we are here to, even though he's retired, he is still very much involved in our community, and he still has that passion for wanting to make things better for our community. So I asked him here to talk to us about Abilene Cares and some of the things that we're doing with that. So would you just tell us how Abilene Cares came about and what some of the goals are?
Well, it was because of your great insight. You know, I can remember when we had our team meetings, and we, as principals, we'd come in and weekly we'd talk about all of the things that we were dealing with in the schools with our students, and all of the problems that they were bringing with them from home, and the things that were happening to their families. So as we discussed that, we kept saying, what can we do to help them more? And we then started to throw out the idea that, well, we knew we couldn't do it ourselves. The district couldn't. So we needed to get the agencies that were in Abilene itself or around this area that could help us solve some of these problems that families were going through. And so in March of 2016, we pulled a group of agencies together in the building and started dialoguing once a month.
And at that time, we all gathered all the data that we had as a group and tried to just identify some of the needs that we saw as a community group. I know that the Central Kansas Mental Health brought in information, we brought in information, our police departments, our sheriff's departments, our Quality of Life Coalition, a lot of different agencies brought data to the table, and we just reviewed it and looked at it and tried to come up with what are some of the main things that we as a group could tackle to help our community and help our kids. So we came up with some goals, and those goals are, I'll let you talk a little bit about the goals.
I know one of the goals is to attack poverty. And because when I first came to Abilene way back in 1980, which probably most of the people viewing weren't even alive then, but back in 1980, the percentage of free and reduced meals in the Abilene district was in the mid-30s. And my last year in 2000, my first year as principal, it was 42%. Last year, it was 66% at McKinley. Big increase, and that's, that was one of the things that was causing so many of the problems with the families we were dealing with. So as we talked about that kind of a percentage, and the other agencies and the other people in the group started to hear about that, it was like, man, that's one of the things we really have to focus on. So we got together with the Circles of the Heartland, the Salina Circles of the Heartland, who have been working on this in Salina for about the last 5 or 6 years, and started dialoguing with them, and we were able to set up a poverty simulation that we ran a couple weeks ago here in Abilene. And
very
which
enlightening.
I think was, yeah, I thought the people there, especially going through the process itself for a couple hours, and then the discussion afterwards, I thought was pretty neat.
It was very powerful, yeah.
So, that's the thing. The awareness that exists here in Abilene, I think, is the most important part, and what we as an Abilene Cares Coalition wanted to see happen at first. Make sure that people are more aware of that. I know as I talk to different groups, different civic groups and different businesses, I could see the shock on their face. You just don't think that, I don't think, when you're in the community, unless you're dealing with it personally. And so even though, we had 40 participate in the simulation, and we had another 13 or 14 people from Abilene that worked the site. So that was 54 people from Abilene that were involved with that on that Saturday. But there's a lot of other people that were in those groups who couldn't be there maybe on that Saturday, but they heard about it. And I think just that part, I hope, will help create some discussion, some awareness in the community, so that we can move forward with this part of the how we're going to attack poverty.
Right, and we have a meeting today, and we will have this discussion with the group and maybe make some plans on what our next steps are with that particular goal. So.
Yeah. Well, our second part is supporting children. A second goal that we have as an Abilene Cares Coalition. We know that there's some mental health issues, not only with our students, but with families, and the families themselves, and how can we address that issue, and plus suicide prevention. And I know through really kind of the work of the coalition, it made us as a district look at what we could do more too.
Right.
And so now we have the SOS program that
students
has started.
are participating in the Signs of Suicide Prevention program, and they've completed watching the video and having the small group discussions. So we'll visit about that today and see what our next steps are to help our students through that. The Signs of Suicide is a program that basically visits with students about what they can do. It empowers them to, when they hear or feel something that's concerning to them about their friends or others in the school, that they tell someone. It kind of plays on the acronym ACT, ACT. You acknowledge you care enough about your friends and the people around you that you will tell someone that there's some concerns and that they maybe need some help. So that's kind of what the program does, and our counselors and our social workers and a lot of different folks have been at the high school to work with our kids through that process. So that came out of the Abilene Cares Coalition as a way to help empower students and get them involved in the awareness of suicide and mental health. So.
And I know the Community Foundation, Dixon County Foundation, is involved in the Cares Coalition, but also gave a grant to us,
Abilene Cares,
so
correct.
that we could do quite a few things with that.
Right,
And I know
so we
have.
could have some seed money to pay for the poverty simulation, as well as a parent portal, so that they can get online and find information about the signs of suicide and review the videos and those kinds of things. So we're really grateful for the Community Foundation for that.
And I think too, the Abilene Cares, we have a website that
We do.
is really great information for anybody that has some concerns that they're going through at the time. They can get right on that, and there's a lot of different organizations and phone numbers that they can access and
Right.
get some help.
Right, and that website is abilenecares.org. So you can get on that website, and there's information there, you know, phone numbers and a little bit about the organization and our goals, as well as some resources.
I know one other thing that we've kind of supported was the Neighbor to Neighbor organization or house that exists on
Right.
Cedar Street right now, but it's Neighbor to Neighbor house. And I know since it started in January, really as something that's giving information to a lot of people here in the community. There's a lot of women, and that's what Neighbor to Neighbor is all about.
Right.
Is just women in the community can go there and converse with each other. They can be support groups for each other, and since that has started, there's a lot of elderly women who have gone to the house now, and they feel like they can help the younger women
That's
with some of those
fantastic.
things that
Yes.
that they're going through too, and so that's been a really great outreach.
Yeah, Sister
And-
Loretta, she's part of our Abilene Cares group as well, and it's just another really great support system for folks in our community.
Yeah.
I know they even teach women how to can, so as soon as I find some time, I'm going to go
gonna take
over
a
and learn
class?
how to can, because I'd like to start learning how to do that.
Yeah, well, and I know the
someday.
Kansas State Extension Office
Okay.
that they're doing some lessons on just how to freeze food.
How to freeze food.
Yeah, and so that you can
Fantastic.
pull those meals out of the freezer and actually feed the family, which has kind of gone by the wayside, I think, lately. But so that's a neat the service that's been going on there. And then I think the third goal that we have too is create a sense of unity in the community.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
I still can remember when Jerry Davis, I think, brought up the fact that when you think of Chapman, it's the Irish. And so we started thinking, hey, we need to do that for Abilene then too. So I know some things have happened just within the district.
we no longer have the McKinley Rockets and the Kennedy Kangaroos. Or just the Cowboys and the Cowgirls. Now we do still have the middle school Longhorns, and we have not engaged in that discussion yet. That's still, I mean, the Cowboys were driving the Longhorns, so it's still within the Western theme. So we'll leave that for now.
And
But
there's a hashtag and a
we have a hashtag that we use, and it's just Abilene 5-star hometown. That anytime we tweet something, we try to put that on there, so that if you look up Abilene 5-star hometown, then everyone in the community can see what's out there in our 5-star hometown. So
So that unity between the Cowboys and Cowgirls in Eisenhower, I think that has a lot of potential, and that's something else that we're looking at as our coalition keeps talking
keeps
about
talking
things, so.
about it. And I know there are other agencies in the community that are talking about some of the same things, you know, our City of Abilene and the Eisenhower Foundation. And there's just been so many really wonderful opportunities on the weekends in our community that I think that unity is going to grow. This weekend it's the Chisholm Trail Days, and you know, we've just had a lot of really wonderful events that are really pulling our community together. So
I know one other thing too that I know really is a neat thing for me is to see that within the district itself, we looked at providing another social worker
yes,
to meet all the needs, and that kind of grew out of a lot of this discussion that we were having as a group. So that's also another thing that's available now that wasn't, to help families, and I know that's working well too. So.
right, and she is busy. She's really working on trying to provide support for families who need the support, which is what you as the principals were trying to do previously. So we are trying to work in connection with the principals, and she's doing all kinds of really wonderful things, buying supplies and you know, just doing whatever she can to help those families so that the kids can come to school and they can be successful. That's really our bottom line, is we want our kids to to come to school and be ready to learn so that we can teach them and they can go on to bigger and better things when they graduate from high school. So, all right, anything else for Abilene Cares?
Well, no, it's just, you know, we want to bring the community together to help each other. When you can help everyone, the community just gets stronger. So.
Right, right. And that's kind of our overall goal. So, all right, well, thank you, Tom, for coming in and on your in your retirement and visiting with me about this, and we'll maybe bring you in again someday. So we'll see the updates on Abilene Cares.
Keep doing that great work.
All right. That's all we have today for USD 435 update.